Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the entrance of the official party and remain standing for the national anthem. Please take your seats. Family and friends, I'd like to thank you for your attendance at the graduation of the Department of Aviation Medicine Flight Paramedic Course, Class 256. Welcome. My name is Sergeant First Class Sergei Rotsev. I am the Master of Ceremony for today's graduation. The students seated before you spent past 4 weeks pouring their hearts, a lot of sweat, and even some tears to accomplish the goal of becoming an Army critical care flight paramedic. They come from all over the country in pursuit of higher education to provide the best possible medical care to our injured soldiers on the battlefield. We're here at the Department of Aviation Medicine demanding a lot out of these soldiers. They initially received academic training involving aeromedical and hoist operations, as well as recognition of aircraft components and systems. The students were challenged to appropriately identify and describe the workings of the engine, transmission, landing gear, hydraulics, and auxiliary systems of the UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter. Learning the operational doctrine and inner workings of the Black Hawk may have been a surprise to most of them, but they persevered and excelled as a class. After the aviation-specific tasks were completed, the next phase was to focus on their medical tasks in the back of the helicopter. The simulated patients treated throughout the course ranged from trauma injuries with multiple amputations, military working dogs, post-surgical critical care transfers, to even children and babies. The students took part in a mass casualty scenario where they assessed, triaged, and treated multiple patients while still being expected to manage a very chaotic scene. This tested their physical and mental limits to prepare for mass casualty producing environments. Additionally, the students completed a cumulative situational training exercise where they had to manage a critical post-surgical patient in real helicopter as it flew 1,000 feet off ground. These flight paramedics finally put it all into practice, everything they learned over the past 4 weeks, and accomplished what they set out to achieve, some starting over a year ago. But learning does not stop here. This is only the beginning. All the possibilities that lie before them. These students are ready to join an incredibly proud community. All branches of the United States Army look to their past for inspiration and hard-earned examples to follow. Most look to the greatest of generation. However, the U.S. Army aeromedical evacuation community was born in the battlefields of Korea and proven its worth in Vietnam through their sheer audacity. Among the millions of casualties produced in Vietnam War, more than 900,000 survived their injuries thanks to the uncommon dedication and bravery of a relatively small group of soldiers known as Dust-Off. The Dust-Off soldiers flew some of the most dangerous missions in South Vietnam to evacuate wounded troops from the battlefield with the goal of keeping them alive long enough to receive more thorough medical care further in the rear. Their unofficial battle cry was, "When I have your wounded." which were some of the last words spoken by the legendary Dust-Off Detachment Commander, Major Charles Kelly. He will always be remembered for his heroism on July 1st, 1964. On this day, Major Kelly received a call from a unit near Vinh Long. When approaching the area, Major Kelly radioed men on the ground and asked them to mark their position with smoke. As they neared the ground, the enemy forces turned their weapons on his vulnerable aircraft. The advisors on the ground practically radioed Major Kelly, warning him to get out of the area as fast as possible. "When I have you wounded," he answered. Although he was later killed in action, Major Kelly's daring persistence serves as an example for the dust-off crews to follow to this very day. He only had 3 simple rules, which became a core competency for Army medevac. Accept every mission, never return without a patient, and always prioritize the patient's safety. The students seated before you demonstrated persistent qualities of their medevac predecessors and met Major Kelly's expectations and training. We are proud to pass the torch to this new generation of critical care flight paramedics. Now I would like to introduce our guest speaker for the day, Colonel Samuel Fricks. Colonel Fricks hardly needs an introduction as he is known far and wide within the dust-off community. Colonel Fricks commissioned as a Medical Service Corps officer 25 years ago and held multiple commands across our many Army Aviation evacuation units. Colonel Fricks deployed several times in support of global war on terrorism. His awards and decorations included 2 Bronze Stars and 4 Meritorious Service Medals, among others. He is a member of Order of Military Medical Merit and Order of St. Moritz. Colonel Fricks currently serves as the Director of the Medical Evacuation Concepts and Capabilities Division.
Appreciate that introduction there. Yes, I am known far and wide, but not always for positive things, but that's okay. I know you're not going to remember me the second you walk out this door, and I don't blame you, but I do want you to listen to what I have to say. So, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, families, most importantly, leaders in the graduating class of the Critical Care Flight Paramedic course, number 256, yeah. It's an honor to be with you today. Ceremonies like this are never just about recognition. They're about responsibility. They're about pausing in a profession that rarely pauses, to take stock of who we are, what we've achieved, and what lies ahead. Today we're going to celebrate this group of soldiers who have chosen one of the most demanding and consequential callings in Army medicine. As a critical care flight paramedic, you're about to take your place in a legacy that is both proud and sobering. A legacy defined not only by technical skills, but by courage under fire, compassion in chaos, and an unrelenting commitment to preserving life when every second counts. But before I go any further, let me pause to recognize the families in this room, which I will say is quite impressive. We got a really good showing today for as small as this class is, so thank you for being here. You've carried the burdens that few outside this profession will understand. You've waded through long training, unpredictable schedules, and phone calls that come at all hours of the day and night. You've endured separations, missed birthdays, and the quiet worry that comes when someone you love flies into danger so that others may live. You may not have experienced that yet, but you will. Make no mistake, your sacrifice is part of this achievement. The soldiers did not reach this day alone. They were lifted by your patience, your resilience, and your belief in them. And on behalf of the Army and a grateful nation, I thank you. Over the past 2 decades of war in Iraq and Afghanistan, which is what my entire career has really been centered around, Army medicine accomplished what others thought once impossible. We achieved the highest battlefield survival rate in history, close to 90%, sometimes over that. That number represents tens of thousands of wounded that survived through soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, who made it home to their families because of the speed and the skill and the courage of medical professionals like yourself. And that success was not an accident. It was built on the innovation of combat medics applying tourniquets under fire, on surgeons working by headlamp and dusty tents performing life-saving surgeries, and on nurses who carried entire wards in their memory. And critically, it was built on the flight medics, the dust-off crews, who refused to let distance or danger stand between the wounded and survival. Some of you may have already lived that mission, and some of you will soon, obviously. All of you are here because of your understanding of what that means. I want to take you back for a moment, not to Iraq or Afghanistan, but to Vietnam. We've already heard it in the previous narrative, but in July 1964, as you just heard, Major Charles Kelly flew into heavy enemy fire to extract wounded soldiers. When warned to turn back, Kelly's reply was simple: "I'll leave when I have you wounded." And of course, he was shot right after that. A bullet went right through his heart and killed him instantly and crashed the aircraft, and we lost a commander and a warrior. And his legacy lives on today. And his words became our creed, as you heard mentioned previously. Now, fast forward 4 decades in Afghanistan and Iraq, dust-off crews were called to rescue soldiers badly wounded by IEDs and other things in places like Kundar Province or multinational division Baghdad, typically under intense fire and usually flying and tried to do a hoist, as you saw in the video, in rugged terrain. Medics stabilized multiple casualties, performing advanced procedures in the back of a Black Hawk that was bouncing around, making it difficult to treat. But they performed those advanced procedures that ended up saving multiple lives, many lives. Those soldiers survived because the medic did not hesitate, because the medic carried Kelly's words forward. That's the lineage that you're joining today. And it's hard to really put it in words. You're going to have to experience it before you really understand it. And that's the weight you carry when I have you wounded. So as I transition to the challenges ahead, history is not about what we've done. It's about what comes next. And the truth is that the future will test you in new ways. And I'll tell you that I refer to it as the future, but quite frankly, that battlefield is already here today. And we're seeing that play out on live TV a lot of times. The wars of tomorrow will not look like Iraq and Afghanistan, like the videos you just saw. That's not what it's going to look like. They're going to be fought across vast distances, in places where evacuation is delayed, where communications are jammed, where the skies are contested, where a drone is watching everything you're doing the second you step into theater. And where you're going to have to hold a critical patient for hours, not minutes, before potentially reaching higher care. That means that your skills will matter more than ever. You will not just be stabilizing a patient, you may be sustaining them in the harshest conditions with limited equipment, relying on your training, judgment, and mostly your sheer grit. The demands will be higher, and so will the stakes. You'll also face challenges beyond the battlefield. Resources will be stretched, training will be relentless, and the burden of seeing trauma day after day will leave you with scars that are not always visible. You must care not only for your patients, but for one another and for yourselves. That's why this course is so hard and so demanding. That's why the standards were uncompromising. Because this is not a job for the half-ready or the faint of heart. It's a profession for those who understand that failure is measured in lives. Every IV you start, every airway you secure, every decision you make at altitude or on the ground, it matters. There will come a night or a day when you are the difference between a folded flag or a family reunion. And in that moment, all of this training, all these long hours that you put into this will prove their worth. So I leave you with this challenge. Carry forward the lessons of Iraq and Afghanistan, but don't be trapped by them. Honor the past, but prepare for the future. You're not just inheritors of Army medicine's legacy, you're the authors for the next generation. And I'll tell you, it goes by super fast. When history remembers this era, let it be said that you stood ready, that you were the ones who bridged the gap between life and death, that when the call came, dust in the air, blades overhead, fear in the eyes of the wounded, you answered the call. Graduates, your nation is proud of you. Your Army is counting on you. And your patients, though they may not know your names, one day will owe you their lives. So congratulations. The mission is waiting. And so are the soldiers who will one day look to the skies praying for your arrival. Oh yeah, one last thing. Make sure you only use glass cleaner on the pilot's windscreens, okay? Pledge goes on the side doors. Don't mix that up. I'm not joking. You'll know what I'm talking about soon enough. Okay, congratulations. I'm really proud to be here. This is probably the last speech I'll ever give as I'm heading out to pasture. So it's really meaningful to be here with you. So congratulations, Army Medicine, Army Strong, and dust off. Thank you.
Sir, thank you for your words of wisdom and inspiration. And now I would like to call Sergeant Annested to the stage to lead the students in the Flight Medic Oath. Sergeant Annested will return to First Sergeant Esther Mandy what was issued at the beginning of the course. Sergeant Annested was chosen to be the bearer of the legendary Crewmember wings that date back to 1980s. This exact badge has been passed from class to class without fail and was issued at the beginning of the course to be carried at all times to honor those who have come before them. This class has been through an incredible amount of training to get where they sit now, and we will recognize them for that dedication. The Distinguished Honors Graduate is recognition given to the student who achieves the highest academic exam average and receives the first-time go in all hands-on evaluations. The Distinguished Honor Graduate for Class 256 is Sergeant Matthew Annested, active duty. The runner-up is recognized as the honor graduate. This recipient for Class 256 is Sergeant Jackson Spencer from Oklahoma National Guard. The next four are selected for the Commandant's list for being in the top 20% of the class. Sergeant Herbert Flores from Arkansas National Guard. Staff Sergeant Maya LeBron from Ohio National Guard. Staff Sergeant Aidan McGonigal, active duty. Sergeant Robert Priceman, active duty. The additional graduates for Class 256 are Specialist Justin Castro from California Reserves. Sergeant Isaiah Cooper, active duty. Staff Sergeant Frank Croce, active duty. Sergeant Isadora De Roche from Oklahoma National Guard. Specialist Riley Higginbotham, active duty. Sergeant Joshua Dean Keller, active duty. Staff Sergeant Cody Lilliquist from Montana National Guard. Sergeant Levi Ramsey, active duty. Sergeant Olivia Stenberg, active duty. Sergeant Jack Vogel from Nebraska National Guard. Sergeant Danielle Witzel, active duty. Staff Sergeant Andrew Wilcoxon from Colorado National Guard. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the graduates of the Flight Paramedic course. Sergeant Aniston, the Distinguished Honor Graduate, will now present a class gift to Colonel Samuel Fricks. Sergeant Aniston, Colonel Fricks would like to present you with a gift on behalf of the Dust Off Association. Now the class leader, Staff Sergeant Maya LeBron, will present Colonel Venezia, Director of Department of Aviation Medicine, with the class plaque. On behalf of the Director, I would like to thank everyone for their attendance today. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for playing of the Army song, and please remain standing for the departure of the official party.
March along, sing a song with the army of the free. Count the brave, count the true, who have fought to victory. We're the army and proud of our name. We're
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attendance. This concludes the graduation. Class dismissed.